Dallas 911, this is Carla. Where's your emergency?
Hi, this is an off-duty officer. I need EMS.
Do you need police as well or just EMS?
Yes, I need both.
Okay, what's the address?
I'm at apartment number 1478. It's 1210 South Lamar. 1478, yeah.
What's going on?
I'm an off-duty officer. I thought it was in my apartment, and I shot a guy thinking it was my apartment.
He shot someone?
Yes, I thought it was my apartment. Oh my God.
Within approximately 4 minutes of the 911 call, multiple Dallas police officers responded to the scene.
4th floor, apartment 1478.
There was obviously a sense of urgency.
The actual shooting location was Southside Flats.
Go.
And it's literally 150 feet from the curb of the Dallas Police headquarters.
Hurry. Over here.
Okay, go ahead and talk to me.
No, it's me. I'm off duty. I thought they were in my apartment. I thought this was my floor.
When officers arrive to the apartment, they're met by Amber Guyger. She's a police officer with the Dallas Police Department. She's off duty.
I thought it was my apartment.
Where's he shot at?
The top left.
Where a 26-year-old African-American male is lying on the ground,
Hey, can you hear me?
critically wounded from a gunshot to the chest.
Start CPR.
He is, in fact, the occupant of that apartment where he is found shot.
The victim, gravely injured and clinging to life, is 26-year-old Botham Jean. While first responders rush him to a local hospital, Officer Amber Guyger is placed in a squad car as investigators try to piece together what unfolded.
The initial information given by Officer Guyger was that she thought this was her apartment and then she shot a man. And I'm thinking, how can you go to the wrong apartment? How do you not know where you live? We found 2 fired cases in the kitchen. There were 2 shots fired. One struck the wall over the sofa. The other struck Botham Jean. Nothing indicated that he had a weapon. All the evidence suggests that he was sitting at his sofa, watching television, working on his computer, and eating a bowl of ice cream.
As they continue to work the scene, investigators get an update from the hospital. At 10:46 p.m., Botham Jean is pronounced dead from a gunshot wound to the chest.
Unfortunately, Botham Jean lost his life, and this case at that point turned into a homicide case.
I see a dark body, like a silhouette, just standing in the very back. It's dark inside. I can't see anything. And so I say, let me see your hands. The person keeps moving around. I can't see where his hands are going. And so at that point, I feel like you're gonna kill me. And I know you're gonna kill me. And then at that point, he's moving. And to me, you're advancing. And so I shoot 2 times. I walk in, and it's at that point when I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, it's not my home. I was like, I'm at 1478. I live at 1378. I've lived there less than 2 months. I just moved there.
What did he say? Did he say anything?
He said, hey, aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he said. And I said, let me see your hands, let me see your hands.
This particular incident, it's not a whodunit. It's very evident what occurred. What puzzled us is how did this happen and why did this happen? And most importantly, was this a lawful shooting, a lawful use of force, or was this unlawful?
I draw. I said, let me see your hands.
This shooting occurred in a time where there's a lot of divisiveness upon racial lines.
You have an unarmed black man in his own apartment, and you have a white female officer who shot him. How can this just stand and there be no consequences?
At the end of the day, this boils down to Amber Guyger went into what she believed was her apartment. She feared for her life and acted in self-defense, and this was a justified homicide.
Even with her statement for a self-defense claim, based on Texas law, I see a person who admits to shooting another person, and that is murder.
For activists, Botham's killing is the latest in a long national history of racial division and misconduct by police. Protests sweep the streets of Dallas as news of the senseless killing spreads nationwide. Under mounting public scrutiny, the Texas Rangers complete their investigation. 3 days after the shooting, they submit their findings, and the Dallas PD arrests Amber Guyger.
She was arrested for the felony offense of manslaughter. She booked into jail and was bonded out within an hour or so on a bond of $300,000.
I think that was probably the only appropriate charge that they could have done, because you have to remember, manslaughter is just, were they negligent or reckless? Some people could say that she was reckless and she was negligent, that she could have done things different that would have prevented it.
The news came on that Amber Guyger was arrested for manslaughter, but I never accepted this charge. My quest was to seek a murder conviction for the person who took my son away.
There were remarkable differences in the third floor and the fourth floor that Officer Guyger was in the position to observe. As she enters the hallway, you have different decor. On her floor, there is this potted plant. It really, really stands out. That plant, of course, was not on the fourth floor. But to me, the most remarkable landmark that she missed was a bright red floor mat in front of Botham Jean's apartment. Officer Guyger doesn't have any type of floor mat in front of her apartment. None. How anyone can miss that is beyond me.
Once Amber Guyger ended her shift and left the police department, she was on autopilot, just like anyone else who has a tough day at work. We also know that the Rangers interviewed hundreds of people that lived in that apartment, and a high percentage of them had either parked on the wrong floor, gotten off on the wrong floor and walked to their door, or even entered the wrong apartment.
The difference is that nobody had ever fired a gun at a homeowner, and there were so many other options she could have chosen. And in fact, what their training tells them to do is to call for backup, back out, seek a position of cover and concealment, and wait for backup to arrive. But that wasn't happening here.
They turned to her mobile phone for clues around the time she shot Botham Jean. Their search uncovers highly suspicious activity.
What we learned is that Officer Guyger had deleted text messages after he'd just been shot.
Why are you deleting evidence? What are you trying to hide?
Investigators learned she had a prolonged phone call with her partner at the Dallas PD. The call ended just minutes before the encounter.
She was on the phone for over 16 minutes with her partner, who there's evidence that she was in a relationship with. We don't know what that conversation was, but we know that prior to that, there was some sexting. They were planning to meet even later that evening. So it wasn't like she was on her way home to go to bed. I mean, it's clear that, for lack of a better word, she's preoccupied.
Even more concerning to investigators is mobile phone evidence of a possible cover-up after the shooting.
Officer Guyger had deleted text messages to the same partner that she had communicated with that evening. One of them said, and I'm paraphrasing, "I need you, hurry up." But the second one was that I effed up. I effed up, in my opinion, is a pretty revealing statement as to her realizing what she did was wrong. But secondly, what was more alarming to me is that they were deleted.
Investigators go further back into Amber's text history and uncover more troubling exchanges.
We discovered text messages that were racist. Text messages about pepper spraying protesters at the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade, about her fellow police officers who were Black. Can I say that she shot and killed Bo because she's racist and he was a Black man? Absolutely not. I can't say that. But it does call into question. It just makes you wonder about implicit biases.
I strongly believe if she opened the door and saw another white female or a white male, she probably would have asked questions. Who are you? What are you doing here? If Amber Guyger asked my brother one question, he would still be here. But she didn't.
The grand jury returned an indictment of murder. And that, for me, was the first phase of justice for Botham.
Why did you fire?
So I was scared. I was scared this person's apartment was gonna hurt me.
She started crying and going on, and that made me feel even worse. I believe her responses to her attorney was orchestrated.
The theme that I saw was more pity for herself than pity for Bo's family and the fact that she took that life.
Following the defense's questioning, the state steps up to cross-examine Amber.
As a defense lawyer, you're on pins and needles, hoping that the client doesn't get walked into a trap. As the questioning is unfolding, I can see where the prosecutor is going.
You said you saw him walking.
Yes.
Or coming towards you.
Yes.
That's when you decided to shoot twice.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you were intending?
Yes, sir.
She's got that deer in the headlights look. She's starting to just agree with everything he says, which as a lawyer, you know, is a red flag.
When you shot at Mr. Jean, you knew you were using deadly force against him.
Yes.
And when you shot at him twice, you intended to kill him.
Yes, sir.
She told the jury, she told everyone in that courtroom that she intentionally shot Botham Jean to kill him. You can present all the evidence in the world. There's nothing stronger.
A guilty verdict in this case does not mean you hate police. This has to do with that defendant making unreasonable decisions that put her in that seat and Bo in the ground.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Guyger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
We hear guilty for murder. You just think, final, it's the right decision. It's the right decision. You have to show that this can't go unpunished, that Bo's life mattered, and that he deserved justice.